Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
That's a terrible drum roll.
Oh!
Boy, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
He picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. It is Thursday, May 8th. That means it's time for the OG Hour. Patrick Allen here with you as always, joined by my co-host from Sports Illustrated, the one and only Matt Verderame. How you doing, brother? It's been a minute since you've been on the show.
I'm good. I am busier than I thought it'd be this time of year, but I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Getting ready to plan Rory's first birthday here coming up in 3 weeks, which is bananas how fast things go.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
That's always that's fun.
Yeah.
So
it's somebody told me once about being a father. They said that the years are short and the days are long, and I understand that now. It makes a lot of sense. So good. It goes fast, but it's super rewarding, and it's seems like just yesterday he was a potato, and now he's trying to rip my face off, climb over me, do all that stuff. So it's a good time. I saw you were. I saw this great picture that you posted on Twitter of your lake house that you bought up in Wisconsin, but I need to see. You're gonna have to send me the address. I want to Redfin stock the lake house, but your view is absolutely beautiful.
well, thank you. Yeah, we went up. We opened it last what was it, Thursday night, I guess, so a week from today. Yeah, it was great. It was great. We got up there. I had never winterized our lake house before. It was the first time. It was the first time that I had ever had to do it, and we were a little bit worried about what we were going to open into. But other than finding one bat, we did pretty well.
Oh, that's scary enough. Yeah, I saw you talking on Twitter to somebody, and you said your neighbors getting ready to sell their place, and I thought I was. Maybe give me the address. Maybe I'll look into it and just ruin your life dream of having a vacation home.
Hey, you know what? It is for sale. It is. I think it's aggressively overpriced, but it is for sale. So, come on up.
Yeah, everything is nothing's cheap when it comes to real estate these days. Well, I'm excited to have you on, man. We haven't talked since before the draft, and I thought it would be fun to just kind of dive in. Obviously, we want to get everybody wants to hear your opinion on the draft and what Brett Veach was able to accomplish, and just dive into some of the big remaining questions facing the Chiefs as we get the schedule release will be coming next week. And then after that, it's just enjoy your summer until training camp begins. Right. So not too many big changes. Dak, there was the George Pickens trade. And so things could happen. The Chiefs could get involved with something like that. It's possible, unlikely, but possible. But most of the work is done here at this point. Would you say so?
Yeah. I mean, at this juncture, it was like anything's possible, and sure. Could something happen? Yes. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Like I maybe I'm in the minority. The Pickens trade to me, like, I don't know. I don't even really care. Dallas still isn't good, and Pittsburgh is like fine. I think they're good. I think they're a decent team. Like, they're not a walkover, but I also don't look at Pittsburgh and go, oh my God, like, what are you going to do to stop them? I also think it's really instructive that Pittsburgh traded him for a third-round pick. That the Steelers just said, we're good. We'd rather give up a second. Like, when you really think about it, they said they'd rather give up a second-round pick and pay an older player $30 million a year than give their homegrown young talent anything, because they don't want to deal with him. Yeah. And if you've watched George Pickens over the years, there are two things that are incredibly true about him. He has a ton of talent, and yet he has a lot of baggage that comes with him. And, I think it's interesting. Like the Cowboys get the third-round pick, but they're not even sure if they're going to pay him.
Right.
So it's a weird dynamic. I gotta be honest, I don't love the trade for either team. I wouldn't have given up a top 100 pick for him. And on the flip side, like I get why Pittsburgh did it, but also if you're going to get Aaron Rodgers and you've got Pickens and you've got Metcalf, it feels like you're loading up for like 1 year of maybe doing something. And now, like, I don't know that you're doing anything. So it's a weird year. It's a weird year.
Do you think it's set in stone that they're going to get Rodgers?
I think it's like 90%.
It's just such a weird situation, which, I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers we're talking about, so that makes sense when you think about it. But yeah, they must feel pretty confident if they're going into the season with Mason Rudolph and Will Howard. No offense to Will Howard, but he's a 6th-round pick for a reason. They've got to know something. So we'll see, though. He's an unpredictable guy. But I wouldn't mind him not being in Pittsburgh, because if he's not, they're not winning anything. Playoff time.
No.
And perhaps even with him on the roster. Let's be honest here. He's not been good.
He's not been good. He was an average quarterback last year. Now, an average quarterback for that team is a huge upgrade over what they've had. But it's really hard to make an argument that all of a sudden Pittsburgh's just going to jump out and be 13-4 next year. I don't think it's going to happen. Could they be a 10 or 11 win team if Rodgers plays? Well, yeah, they could be that. But I still don't see them as Baltimore or Buffalo or obviously Kansas City. I think they would be more in that like Houston, Denver, type of tier. Yeah.
All right, we're going to get into these questions. Shout out to all of our members watching the Arrowhead Addict podcast, the OG Hour on YouTube, but you can get us on an audio version as well, anywhere you get your podcasts. And shout out to all of our members, supporters of the podcast. I see a few of them in the chat. And hi to everybody in the chat. Angry Junk in German, old friend of ours. Tone, you guys made the live, so we appreciate you. So let's get into some of these questions following the draft. And I'm going to start this whole thing off, Verderame, by taking you to task. 3 weeks ago, you sat on this very podcast and you said, I don't see the Chiefs rushing to the podium at 31 to take Josh Simmons, who everybody seems to be mocking to them. You later said that you'd be very surprised if the Chiefs took a tackle at 31. Well, you were right. They did not take a tackle at 31. It took a tackle at 32. But how surprised were you by the Simmons pick? And do you think that some of the things that you were here, you're close to the team, you've got league sources and stuff, you talk to a lot of people. Were some of the things that you were hearing before the draft in regards to the tackles, or maybe in particular into Simmons, was that a bit of a smokescreen that, people being cagey about not wanting to know, who they're targeting?
No, look, I think the Chiefs felt, and I know they felt this way, that the tackle class was terrible. However, I think my mistake was taking that as to feel like, well, then if they feel like that, they're not going to take a guy out of that class in the first round. Well, I think their exception to that was if Simmons was there, they were going to take him, which obviously bared out. And that's a misread on my part. I think what also happened, and I don't know this for fact, but it's just my feeling. I think if one of those defensive tackles had been there, it would have been a much tougher decision. But when Nolan and Grant and Harmon were all gone by 22, I think it became much more difficult for the Chiefs at that point if Simmons was there, because you're not going to take a defensive tackle. It's not one of those three guys. I don't see any world that they were going to do that. I would have loved for them to have taken Luther Burden, but I think they showed in their draft, the rest of the way, that a receiver was on their board, but not a massive priority. There was nobody really there at other positions. I don't think there was a world where they were going to take a running back once Hampton went off the board. Like the board fell in a way that Simmons was going to be their top-rated guy. And I just felt like, knowing how they felt about the tackle class, well, they're not going to take a guy at 31 or as it was 32 because it doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. But I think in hindsight, they felt overall the tackle class was bad, but Simmons would be a great value if you got to him. And I think part of that, too, was just that as the process went on, look, they felt good about his patella tendon. And whether they're right or wrong with that, we're going to find out. Listen, he is the highest upside guy they could have taken at that spot. Okay, because if he's really good, he's a franchise left tackle for the next decade, and you couldn't find anything more important at that spot for the Chiefs. The flip side of that is it's hard for me to buy into this narrative that the Chiefs have sat there and are like, hey, you know what? Everything's great, and that everybody else felt that way and passed on him. Like, if everybody else felt good about his medical and everybody else felt good about his personality, he wouldn't have been there at 32. So the Chiefs are feeling differently perhaps than some other teams. Now, the last thing I'll say about it, and I think this is important, there's also context to that, which is it's a less of a risk for the Chiefs at 32 than it is for the Saints at 9, right?
Yeah.
So it's a sliding scale of risk. Like if the Saints, if Simmons had no injury history, he played the whole year at Ohio State, they win the national championship, all the rest of it, he plays and he's terrific. There is no world that guy's getting out of the top 10 in this draft because his tape compared to Kelvin Banks' tape is miles better. Like, it's not even arguable. I don't think Kelvin Banks would argue. Like, it's miles better. And he went 9th overall. So I don't think he would have gotten out of the top 10. But the medical piece of this is huge because a torn patella tendon is like having a torn Achilles. It is a huge deal. And so I think it was probably much harder to get comfortable with that early in the round. And as you went further and further along. Now, I will say this. I'm surprised if the medical checked out with a team like the Texans that they traded out and let the Chiefs get him 32. Because they needed that left tackle more than the Chiefs do. Like, that was surprising to me. But, again, the Chiefs got comfortable with the situation and took him. And now it's a question of, okay, does he actually, and I know what they've said, I understand it all. Is he actually there in full pads, first padded practice and training camp? Or is this much more of a, hey, we're going to ramp him up. We're going to take our time. He's going to start on pup. Like, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Do you think there's an element, too, where the Chiefs are playing with quite a bit of house money? And so maybe they're a bit more risk averse, not just from where they're picking, but the fact that, they're looking at the situation. They're saying, won a bunch of Super Bowls. We have a really good team. We have a left tackle. And they're valuing his upside and saying, hey, we're always going to be picking back here as long as Patrick Mahomes is on this team. We're not going to have a chance to draft a tackle, franchise left tackle with this guy's upside ever, maybe ever again.
Right.
And there has to be something wrong, right? There has to be a concern, character, injury, in this case, a little bit of a combination of things. And they just may feel like, you know what, like if Veach whiffs on this pick, he's not going to get fired, right? Clear Cut's not going to fire Brett Veach. He could be the worst left tackle ever, and he's still going to have a job. Whereas these other guys, there aren't too many guys that could afford to whiff too many times on first-round picks in the NFL and keep their job. But Brett Veach is one of those people. Right.
Yes. And look, there's no question, right? Like, if you are Joe Shane in this draft, you better get it right. Like, you better nail the 2 first-rounders you had, which, of course, are Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart. Brett Veach could draft me at 32 overall, and he's not getting fired this year. So, although if he drafts me at 32 overall, he should. Yes, the point is,
draft you at all.
Right, yeah, even UDFA is immediately fireable. Yeah. I think, yes, it's a good point you bring up in the sense that, listen, he doesn't have to feel like, well, I got to take the safest pick here. There's a luxury not only in his job security, but in how great they've been, which, of course, is why he has job security. Like, they've got the 5 of the 6 last Super Bowls. If you're Brett Veach, you can sit there and go, hey, you know what? Maybe and I don't know if he feels this way, but maybe he could have sat there and said the safest pick is Travion Henderson. That's just like, we just feel like he's going to be a really good player. We don't worry about it. But maybe he just looked at it and said, yeah, okay, but Simmons is a risk reward, and the risk is that this is a disaster if this doesn't work out. The upside is, if this works out, this guy is a Pro Bowl level left tackle for, whatever you want to call it, 2 contracts, 7-8 years.
Yeah.
That is immensely valuable to it. And look, their whole offseason has spoken to the idea. Like, they cannot deal with this anymore. They went out and signed Jalen Moore the second free agency opened. They then spent a first-round pick on Josh Simmons. Both guys have risk. Moore is healthy, but he's played 12 games in his NFL career, or started 12 games in his NFL career. Simmons is coming off a torn patella tendon and has character concerns. But the Chiefs basically are like, just doubling and tripling down on the idea. We have to be able to block someone. We have to be able to do it. And then, look, they feel like with Rice there and Worthy and Hollywood Brown, that they've got a trio of really good receivers. They felt like that last year. And then, of course, things happened and injuries took place and they didn't get there. They took Jalen Royals in the fourth round, who could have easily been a late second round pick. So I think, you look at what they've done, like they clearly are trying to load up in the passing game. Like they drafted the seventh round running back, who, by the way, was a former converted receiver, but they went and got a fourth round receiver who was an incredible value there. They went out and they signed the left tackle for 2 years, $30 million. They went out and they got another left tackle in the first round of the draft. Like they have tried the best they can to fortify this offense while also using 3 day 2 picks on the defense, D tackle, D end, corner. So look, I love what they've done this offseason. I have certainly been critical of them in the past at times. And the Simmons pick, I'll be critical of if it doesn't work out because the red flags are there. Like if this doesn't work out, they deserve criticism for it. But on the whole, it's really hard to look at this offseason and not think they did a good job.
Yeah. I want to talk more about the offensive line. I think some of these criticisms are a little bit unfair, but they're out there. And I asked some people on Twitter, what are big questions you have for the Chiefs? And our guy Stacy said, who writes at Arrowhead Addict, he said, "Is Andy Heck doing enough to develop the young offensive lineman?" Now, I'm not an offensive line coach, right? But every NFL person I talk to raves about Andy Heck and the job that he does as a coach. But the fact that Wanya Morris wasn't able to start and that Kingsley Suamataia wasn't able to start, I think has distorted people's minds a little bit. And there's this narrative that, hey, the Chiefs can't develop tackles. They can't develop young tackles. I don't know if that's necessarily fair. You have to have something to work with, but what's your opinion on this?
I mean, look, we did this too with the receiver coach, Connor Embry, when everybody's like, oh, what are they going to do? Now they have Bryson Worthy. Like, now that guy is apparently the best wide receiver coach of all time. I think a lot of times it's like, who do you get to work with? I mean, look, does Andy Heck get credit for Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey?
Right.
Because you got to give credit there if you're going to give demerits other places. And it works the other way too. Like, here's my opinion. I think Andy Heck's a good coach. Andy Heck got Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, and they're really good football players. And Kingsley Suamataia, you can coach him all you want. The guy doesn't have the foot speed to play tackle. He doesn't. I'm sorry. I watched him play 2 games last year, and I got to tell you, it was enough. Like, he was getting beat clean. I mean, there were literally times Nick Bonino and Trey Hendrickson were coming off the edge and not being touched. That's not Andy Heck's problem. Like, Andy Heck is not coaching Kingsley Suamataia to let the guy go around him. Okay. I think, look, if Suamataia comes in this year and he's a good guard, frankly, that's not a bad pick. Like, if you get a starting guard in the late second round, you can do worse. So if he ends and if he develops there, then you got to give Heck credit. Now, I will say, I think Jalen Moore is fascinating there, and Josh Simmons is fascinating there because Simmons, of course, is a rookie, and Moore's played 12 games as a starter. Like, Heck is getting – this is the first time with Simmons that Andy Heck is getting a first-round tackle. This is the first time. The highest they took a tackle before this was Suamataia, and then before that was Wanya Morris. He has not been given blue-chip type guy. This is the first guy. This is a blue-chip guy. Well, let's see how he develops.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I think this offensive line, what they've done here with Moore, Suamataia, the Wanya Morris, the depth, and then now bringing in Simmons. If it all works out, if Moore ends up being a good tackle for you that you can either have it left or move to right, same with Simmons. And then you have, obviously they would have to re-sign Moore, and you get what you need out of Suamataia, and then Wanya Morris develops enough to where he can step in as a swing tackle for you in an emergency.
Right.
You've done incredibly well. So I think everybody take a deep breath, let this thing play out. I don't consider Wanya a whiff because he was taken at a point where you're probably not drafting a starter at that position.
I got to be honest with you. I think Wanya Morris late in the third round, like, the guy hasn't been bad for where they drafted. There is this weird thing about that people have, this expectation that everybody that gets drafted should just be great. Like, well, I don't understand. Like, he was drafted like 100th. You're like, yeah, sometimes you're going to hit on Travis Kelce in the 3rd round. You're also going to have Kavari Russell in the 3rd round. Like, it's hard. If you go, and I actually did this once, I did a massive deep dive when I was a fan side, and I never even got around to publishing it because it was just so big, it was almost impossible. But like, if you're looking at 3rd round picks, you have like a 10% chance that guy's ever playing in one Pro Bowl. Yeah. I mean, I think in the 2nd round, it's like 20%, and in the 1st round, it's like 50-50. Okay? It is almost impossible. If Veach has 10 3rd round picks, if one of those guys is a Pro Bowl player, that's great. That's great. Like, historically speaking, actually, I shouldn't say it's great. It's average. That would be like the average. And then if he has 2 like that, that's great. That would be legitimately great. And that includes guys who are like special teams aces. Like, that includes those types of players. I just think sometimes we look at these guys and think, well, how could this guy not be, whatever, X, Y, and Z? Well, because he was drafted 100th. There's a reason he was drafted that. There's like even a guy like this year, okay, Jalen Royals. I think Jalen Royals could have been a late 2nd round pick. I know a lot of people would agree with that. I think he's somebody who is a great value to the Chiefs. But let's even make him a 2nd round pick. Let's say they drafted him when they drafted Norman Lott, 63rd overall. He's still like kind of a lottery ticket. Like, Rashee Rice is not the normal 2nd round pick, but for every Rashee Rice, there's Sky Moore. Okay. And for every George Pickens, there's Tyquan Thornton. Like, it's so hard. And I think that's a credit to Veach that they have hit over and over and over in these 2nd, 3rd, 4th round pick. Like, and they're at the back of all these rounds. They're not picking 35th. Like, right. They're picking 65th. Like, for them to hit the way they have is a tremendous credit to their front office.
We get a comment in the chat from Adam. He said that Andy Heck should be somewhat responsible for Jawan Taylor's penalties. I don't know, man. What are you supposed to do as a coach other than say, don't move until the ball is snapped? Line up and stand here. Like, what are you supposed to do?
I'll be honest with you. You're arguing with, in my opinion, about the wrong Andy. That's an Andy Reid problem. At some point, yank him. Take him out of the game. And they did that once in Jacksonville, if you remember that. He had like 5 penalties in the game. They took him out of the game. Take him out of the game. Like, if I were Andy Reid, I would sit him down and be like, look, man, you get 2 penalties in a game that are like you're coming out of the game. Because if one of them, if the first penalty is because you're not lined up correctly, you're coming out. I'm going to embarrass you in front of 80,000 people. You're coming out of the game. On the spot. Not after the drive, not at halftime. Like, on the spot, you're coming out of the game. Yeah. But they won't do that. They don't do that. That's, to me, there's no world that Andy Heck is sitting there with him going, hey, listen, see if you can line up on the defensive side of the ball and get away with it. Like, they're not doing that. But Andy Heck can't do anything about it if Jawan Taylor won't change and there's no repercussion for it. And that's on Andy Reid, not Heck. That's on Andy Reid. Like, Andy Reid has that is where they miss Eric Bieniemy, in my opinion. Eric Bieniemy would be in Jawan Taylor's face before he got to the sideline. But they don't have that. Matt Nagy's not going to yell at him. Andy Reid's not going to yell at him. And so there's this attitude of like, it's okay. What are you going to do? And it's ridiculous. I agree. It's completely ridiculous, but it is the truth.
Yeah. I mean, you get paid millions and millions of dollars lining up in the right spot and not moving before. Come on, man. It's ridiculous. We'll see if it approves. I don't know that. I think it is who he is at this point. All right. Next question here. Did the Chiefs, you mentioned the investment that they made after the first round and the defense. Did the Chiefs do enough to address the defensive line depth behind Chris Jones?
Yeah. Look, I think so. I mean, they lost Wharton, and they had signed Tillery, and they brought back Pinnell in the offseason. I know Norman Lott kind of has the fan base split. I got to tell you, I actually really like Norman Lott. I saw him a decent amount, and I am not the guy who watches a relentless amount of college football. I love watching it, but I'm married and have 2 kids, and if I watch college football all day long, I'd be divorced. So I don't see a lot of it, but I do watch a good amount of the SEC. If I have time, that's usually the conference I'll sit down and watch. And I probably saw Tennessee 4 times last year. And I remember watching him and thinking, like, this guy's pretty explosive. And he doesn't play every down. Hell, he didn't play half the downs. They had a very deep rotation with the Volunteers, but I do like him a lot. I think he's a pass rushing type of specialist where they're not asking him to two gap. Like, he's going to get up the field and rush the quarterback. I think with him and Tillery and Pinnell, it's a pretty good rotation. And then you've got Ashton Gillott on the outside, who's going to be in there with, of course, Karlaftis and a minute who are going to start. But then you have him, you have FAU, you have Dana. Like, if those are your 9 D linemen, it's a pretty good group. Like, I feel like if you're looking at it from a pass rushing perspective, you got a lot of juice there. Like, you got a lot of guys. And you also have the versatility of Jones can play outside on third down. We know Amena who sometimes moves inside. We know Dana can move inside occasionally. It's like the Chiefs have quite a bit of flexibility there. I actually really like the D-line room. I think it's one of their strengths. From
a strategic perspective, it was interesting, I thought, the way Veach handled the draft. You had these skill position players at the running back position. We talked about juice for Mahomes, the offense being the middle of the pack. That's crazy when you got Patrick Mahomes. And we know that there were injuries and things. But for him to go defense like that after that first round, do you think his philosophy here is, I'll tell you what, man, we're going to score because we've got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. We have enough weaponry. And he's looking at this team and what they did when the defense was dominant and thinking our ticket to winning the most Super Bowls is continuing to be able to stop other teams. Is that the approach he was taking here? Oh, did we lose Verderame? It looks like we lost Verderame. All good. But that's what I was thinking when I watched him take those 3 consecutive defensive picks, was that he wanted to bolster this defense because that's when they've won the back-to-back Super Bowls. I don't know if you heard the question, Verderame, when we lost you, but do you think Veach believes that defense is more important to this team winning Super Bowls than offense?
I'm not sure if anybody can hear me, but I can't hear Patrick.
Oh, he can't hear me.
I can hear you fine.
All right, Verderame's going to go out, come back in, and we'll get his in. He can't hear me, which is a blessing in disguise for Verderame. This is what happens when you do live. And the reason I think this about Veach is because, I've said this on the show before. We saw the light show with Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs racking up all the points and all that stuff. And I'm not saying the offense doesn't need to be better, but what I am saying is when that defense was top 10, the Chiefs won 2 Super Bowls, and they were still pretty good last year. Not quite as good as they were the year before, and we're back in the Super Bowl when the offense struggled mightily at times the last 2 years. So, Verderame, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, I can. Do you think that Brett Veach thinks that the key to this team winning more Super Bowls is to continue to have a top 10 defense?
I actually think, look, they want to stay good defensively, of course, but I think they're looking at it like the key to winning our Super Bowls, like actually being able to function offensively. And I think that's why they went out and they signed the tackle and they drafted a tackle in the first round. And then they brought back Hollywood Brown and they added Jalen Royals. Their defense has been the sole reason they've been to the last 2 Super Bowls. It has been the sole. I mean, look, everybody who's a Chiefs fan loves Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes has certainly done his part by and large here. Let's be honest. This offense has been brutal to watch the last 2 years. It has been painful to watch the team play offense. And a lot of that has been because the receivers outside of the top guys on the depth chart have stunk. And they can't block anybody. And so I think they're looking at it like, we know it's Spagnuolo. This is going to be a really good defense. I mean, even this team, I understand they've got difference, difference makers who have left, like a Wharton or a Reed. But look at the defense. They still have one of the better linebacking crews in the league. They've got Chris Jones and Karlaftis and Amena up front. They've got McDuffie and Jalen Watson and Jaden Hicks and Brian Cook. I mean, Christian Fulton. I mean, that defense is going to be good. I'll be shocked if that defense is healthy and it's not good. I think offensively they've looked at it like, we have got to do something here. We've talked a lot about it. Mahomes' yards per attempt the last couple of years have been brutal. I mean, they don't throw the ball down the field. His air yards was 41st in the league last year. Air yards per attempt. Awful. It was awful. I think if you're the Chiefs, you have got to get back to being good offensively. And I know, the nerds out there will go, well, analytically speaking, they were 12th or whatever the hell they were. Yeah, that's great, bro. They stunk. Okay. Anyone with eyes watching that offense last year is painful. And part of that was injuries, and part of that was the offensive line, or whatever. That's fine. But they've got to figure that out. And I do think that their investment in tackle, going to get Royals, bringing back Hollywood, even bringing back Hunt, I think a lot of that is geared toward being a better offensive team.
So do you think that they feel like they had done enough on offense to go defense after that first round pick? Because, I think there were a lot of Cheeseheads who were like, hey, I don't know who was still on the board when they picked, whether it was, a Cam Scadaboo or Quinshon Judkins. I don't know if he was gone at that point, but they could have gotten some of these guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would have liked to see them take it back earlier. Brashard Smith in the 7th round, that was good value. I thought he was probably going to go in the earlier part of day 3, the first half of day 3. But, I think they needed speed, and they got speed in Smith. And look, he's a 7th round pick. He might not even make the team. At the same point, he might end up being a guy like Pacheco, who was a 7th round pick, who immediately not only made the team, made an impact. They just need more explosiveness. And if Rice and Brown are healthy, they'll have it. And if Smith can contribute or Elijah Mitchell can contribute, they'll have it. But they need to be more explosive offensively. They have gotten by because Mahomes is a miracle maker, and that defense has been really, really good. But at some point, you've got to be able to go out and actually explosively attack teams. And that's something the last 2 years they've not been able to do.
Yeah, I'm fascinated at this idea of the Brashard Smith pick, because I know he was a 7th round guy, but I'll tell you what, man, he was a receiver. And so I was going back and watching some old highlights of Kareem Hunt the first time he was in Kansas City, and the way that they were using him in the passing game. And then they haven't really, they did some stuff with the screen game with McKinnon, but they really haven't had a back doing that since Kareem Hunt 1.0. And now Kareem Hunt 2.0 he's not equipped to do that anymore. But with Smith, I'm thinking about Andy Reid's one of his best players ever, and Brian Westbrook. I'm not saying this guy's going to be Brian Westbrook, but the way Andy used Brian Westbrook, this guy can do that stuff. And I think that that's been a dimension that's been missing from this offense for a few years now.
Yeah, look, Hunt can catch the ball, Pacheco can catch the ball, but they don't catch the ball with any kind of real after the catch ability. Now, McKinnon was pretty good at that, but again, it was older and didn't have the speed. This guy is a converted receiver from Miami who transferred to SMU and became all ACC as a running back, over 1,300 rushing yards. It definitely helps. I am curious to see how they use him. If he becomes a guy that early in camp, okay, this guy's going to make the team. We really like him. Does he become a guy where they start screwing around? Hey, let's put him out wide. Let's put him in the slot. Let's move him around a little bit. I will say this about Andy Reid. If there's anyone in the league who knows how to utilize a guy to their greatest strength, it's him. If they feel like this kid has a unique set of skills, they will use those to their advantage. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons that they took him, was because of that background, because of that ability to catch the ball and be somebody who's not just a running back who is occasionally going to go out for a swing pass.
Yeah, and he has speed as well. And as Angry Drunken German says in the chat, wheel routes are back. We have a legit weapon at halfback. And you also have Xavier Worthy, who the Chiefs used in a myriad of different ways last year, in the backfield, out wide, on screens. So I think that when you combine that with the speed that Hollywood Brown has when he's healthy, getting Rashee Rice back, you still got Travis Kelce out there who's going to be able to, find places to get open. It's a pretty compelling offense if everything works out the way it's supposed to, including, of course, the blocking and Patrick being aggressive. Right. I think that's the big thing. And somebody said it, I think Mary said it in the chat, Patrick needs to get back to his gunslinging ways. It's almost like he overcorrected. It was like he was throwing a bunch of interceptions. The teams were playing him differently, and they weren't moving the offense. They were ineffective, and he had to learn to take what the defense gave him, and he did that, and then he became surgical, and then won a couple Super Bowls. But then he just got the world's worst receiving core for a couple of years there, guys that couldn't catch or couldn't get open. And he seemed just terrified He just wanted to try to move the ball. And you've heard him talk about the Super Bowl, and I know it was during absolute garbage time, but it must have felt good for him to uncork a couple of those deep balls at the end of that Super Bowl.
Look, it's a weird thing to say about them. Like, if you said to me, what is your number one thing about this team that has to change going into 2025? There's a few things. There's not a laundry list. I mean, they just went to the Super Bowl again. The number one thing is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
He has got to stop playing like he's Tyrod Taylor. It just has to stop. And I get it. All the points you just made are 1,000% correct. Like, he has had an abominable group of receivers outside of two rookies in Worthy and Rice, respectively, over the last 2 years. Kelsey is not the same guy that he used to be. He's still good. He's still a legitimate Pro Bowl tight end, but he's not, the dominant, oh my God, you can't stop him tight end he was a couple of years ago. That being said, there are times when you watch them where there are shots to be had and there are throws to be made, and he just will not do it. And he checks it down, and he'll talk about it sometimes. Well, I just know sometimes in my head, like, where I should go pre-snap. He's got to stop. I'm not saying every throw needs to be some 15-yard, howitzer down the middle of the field. That's not the way you play football. But if he's got a ball to throw to Worthy, to Rice, especially Worthy, that's 50-50 down the field, that ball's got to be out of his hand. Like, if you've got Worthy one-on-one, I don't care who it's with. I don't care if it's Patrick Surtain. Like, throw it down. He's faster than him. Throw the ball. Yeah. Throw the ball out. And listen, if you don't hit it, fine. Then you don't hit it. Like, that's okay. There's like, it's a deep ball. If you're throwing over 20 yards, you're throwing to death if you're completing 20-25% of your passes. Like that, that's fine. But you've got to try. And to me, the bigger thing, and this is where Rice comes in, is the intermediate routes, the 10 to 20 yard throws. Those have just completely vanished from this offense. It has just become Kelsey on a hitch route, running back on a swing route, Rice on a slant, Worthy on a bubble screen. He's got to be willing to throw the ball, and they have just become horrified. And I think in one way, them beating the Niners in the Super Bowl the second time kind of solidified him playing like that. Because to be fair to him that year, they had to play like that. They had no ability to do it. Rice was a rookie. They had no receivers who could do anything other than him. Like, Mahomes was essentially forced that year to play that way. I get it. I completely understand that. But last year, he wasn't. And the receiving core still wasn't very good, but Worthy could stretch the field. They had some speed on that, and he just wouldn't use it. That's where it's got to change. If that changes, I think this offense, the sky's the limit. They've got weaponry all over the place, but they've got to be willing to utilize it the way they need to utilize it.
Yeah. And it all starts up front with the protection. So we've talked a lot about it, but I haven't asked the direct question here. Have they done enough this offseason to protect Mahomes?
I think they've done all they can. Now, whether that's enough, I don't know. I think they've done all they can.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Right? There's some limitations outside of making a crazy trade or something along those lines, and the cap limitations that they have. I do think they did what they could, and that's why I was glad they took Simmons in the draft, because Moore is a little bit of a question mark, and it felt like, well, if that doesn't work, you could be right back in the same situation you were last year, except now you don't have Joe Thuney. So you've got a couple question marks heading into this season, but they've placed a couple of bets, and they need a couple of them to work out. If it's that's it. Okay, so after this draft, you evaluate the whole class. Did the Chiefs get better, or did they just get younger?
It's always hard to say when you don't know what these kids are going to turn into, but I think if this team is healthy, this is a better team than a year ago. Because I like the D-line depth a little bit better. The linebackers are the same. They're weaker at safety because they don't have Justin Reed. But I like that they brought in Edwards. I think he at least kind of buttresses that situation. They're better at corner. They're clearly better at corner. I mean, look, they're better at receiver by a mile if they're healthy. That's not even arguable. Plus, Worthy's in his second year now. Tight end's the same, quarterback the same, running back. I mean, look, it's hard to say. I think it's at least the same, if not better. But it's probably even better just if Pacheco's healthy. And then offensive line, like, it's hard to say. They're definitely worse at left guard, and that's not a knock on Kingsley. It's just, I mean, he's replacing Joe Thuney. But if they're a lot better at left tackle, then they're better overall. So, like, I think they're better. I think they're a better team. Are they wildly better? It's hard to be wildly better than a team that just went to its third straight Super Bowl. I think they're better. And I think that if Simmons hits, if, one of those defensive guys really hits, Royals hit, then I think they're demonstrably better. But that's just obviously the great unknown here.
Yeah, Mary in the chat says Bringstool is an exciting piece to have as an undrafted free agent. He's a tight end. I can't recall where he played, but I feel like tight end's one of those weird positions where you have a better chance of uncovering a diamond in the rough. I'm not saying that they're going to get a UDFA who's Travis Kelce at the tight end position, but it's a weird position, and schemes use these guys in very specific ways, and so you just don't know sometimes who's gonna. Sometimes they'll draft a guy that's really athletic, and they're not a factor in the passing game, right? You got guys out there that are like Juwan Johnson, like he's a good NFL player. He's incredibly athletic, but he's not Travis Kelce. He's not Antonio Gates, right? And he's never going to be. So it's kind of a strange position. Are there any undrafted free agents that have stood out to you that you're excited about?
Undrafted free agents. I mean, Brennan Stool's an interesting guy. He runs like a 4.8, but he's an interesting guy. He was productive at Clemson. He's got good hands. Runs pretty good routes. So I like him. Beyond that, it's so hard. I mean, they're UDFAs, right? I mean, it's so hard to sit there and be like, the kid, I always forget, the name is completely escaping me. The kid out of Florida, the receiver, seems to be somebody everybody's kind of attached to. The problem
we love ourselves some undrafted free agent receivers in Kansas City.
And that's the thing. But the problem's like, man, where's that guy getting on the roster?
Yeah.
Like, if you look at them, I know they kept 7 last year. They normally keep 6. Rice, Brown, Worthy. I think Juju is not a lock, but he's probably going to make the team. Royals is going to make the team. So let's just say Rice, Worthy, Brown, and Royals. They're making the team. All 4 of those guys. No question. Yeah. Juju is probably making the team. I would argue Nico Remigio is a lock to make the team. That guy's returning kicks. Like, he was unbelievable last year when he became the return man. You're not gonna keep that guy,
right?
So to me, like, and yes, Evan, thank you. Elijah Badger. I see a couple other people say yes. Elijah Badger is who I was thinking of. Where's he getting on the team? That you're not even talking about Justin Ross, who's I feel like at this point 37 years old, and Sky Moore.
I believe he's still around, to be honest with you.
Like he's not. It's just. Listen, I'm not ruling it out. Like, he could come to camp, just be unbelievable, and they're sitting there going, "Oh my God, like, we can't believe we got this guy." But he's going to have to be unbelievable to make the team.
Yeah, I've seen some Sky Moore workout videos. It's now or never for Sky Moore.
I mean, hey, Sky Moore's in the lab, baby. Just getting ready. And listen, I give all the credit in the world for working, but it's going to be pretty tough to make.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of the receiver position, Xavier Worthy. Will he take a step forward in year 2? And what does that step look like if he does?
I think he will. I think he probably should. I mean, he was great second half of the year. That kind of portends a guy who's going to really improve and make a jump his second year. I think the biggest jump for him has to be just being able to run a more robust route tree for them. And some of that might not even be him being able to run the routes as much as it's like the Chiefs trusting him to run the routes and like knowing and understanding certain coverage looks and where to sit and where to run through the hole in the alley. I think it's just, being more of an all route. And we saw it with Rashee Rice when he first played his rookie year. If you remember, the first half of Rashee Rice's rookie year was him just like on tunnel screens nonstop and like the occasional slant. And then last year, they started using him on all kinds of stuff. I think it's the same type of thing with Worthy. But look, I honestly, between Worthy and Rice, I think it could be a duo that is one of the better duos in the NFL. Like, they are look, Rice last year before he got hurt was on his way to having like 1,500 yards. He was awesome. And Worthy by the end of if you look at his last like 6-7 games, I have him right in front of me right now, but like plus the playoffs, like the guy's on like well over 1,000-yard pace. So
yeah,
he's got a lot of talent.
Yeah, at the starting on November 17th against the Bills, 61 yards, 46, 54, 41, 46, 65, 79. Didn't play against Denver. And then in the playoffs, 5 of 6 for 45 against Houston, 6 of 7 for 85 against Buffalo, 8 of 8 for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Boy, I tell you what, if you told me that was going to be his stat line before the game, I would have been popping the champagne.
Yeah, right. And little did you know, it all happened after they were down like 85 points. Yeah.
Yeah. But he still did what he did in the Super Bowl in an NFL game. Garbage time.
If you look at the film of that game, he is wide open all game long. But it just doesn't matter because they can't block anybody for more than a second. Like, he is, honest to God, if they had blocked in that game, he might have gone for like 230 yards. He is wide open like 12 different times down the field. And every time he was open, like Mahomes maybe saw him half of those times and like half cocked his arm and just got killed. Like, if they could have blocked anybody in that game, it's a wildly different game, but they couldn't. And that's it. I mean, Philly deserves all the credit in the world. They killed them. But yeah, that game was the tail of the tape in that game was all about not being able to block.
God bless you for having gone back and watched the film of that game. I have not watched a single. Since I was there in person, I have not watched any film of that Super Bowl. I can't bring myself to do it. I'm still traumatized. All right. What's the one position group that could wreck the Chiefs' chances of returning to the Super Bowl if it underperforms?
Oh God, it's the offensive line. It's not even a contest. I've said for a couple of months now, whether it's been here or on my podcast, listen, if they don't go back to the Super Bowl, and again, of course, we're excluding like massive injuries or something to some, the key guys. It's because of the left side of the offensive line. We can talk about Juwan Taylor all day long, but they have survived Juwan Taylor. Like the problem with Taylor typically has been the penalties, not the actual play. Now the Super Bowl it was just a disaster, but like typically it's been the penalties. If they don't go back to the Super Bowl, it is because of their left guard, left tackle combination. That it's just like Simmons isn't healthy, Moore's not good, Kingsley's a disaster, and they're trotting out like Mike Caliendo and God knows who a left tackle. And that's just, that's it. Like, that is, to me, that's the story. If you said to me sitting here on what the hell is it, May 8th, if you said to me on May 8th, they are going to get league average play from their offensive line on the left side. The two, obviously I wouldn't take that from Smith or Humphrey, but from the left side, I think they're going back to the Super Bowl. They probably win 14 games, go back to the Super Bowl because defensively they're still going to be very good. Their special teams should still be very good. And I know offensively, if they block, they've got guys all over the damn place who can play offense. But it's just, if they don't go back, it's probably because the left side of that line just gets absolutely caved in.
Yeah, I agree. That's what stops them from probably winning the 2 Super Bowls they've lost. So, okay. So I'm going to leave Josh Simmons out of this because we know how important the offensive line is. But aside from Josh Simmons, if he starts, which rookie from this class do you feel like has the best chance to become a playoff X factor for this team?
And we're excluding Simmons?
Excluding Simmons.
Okay. Playoff X factor. I know a lot of people would say Royals, but I just don't know if he's going to see enough time in the field this year. He's behind a good amount of guys. I mean, I think just because of the potential to play, I'd say Brashad Smith.
Yeah.
If it's just one of those deals where he's just, he gets on the field and it's like, all right, you know what, this kid can, he's just a burner. Or maybe he has a play or two where he just, he rips off a 50-yard run or something. Like, I'd say him. I thought about maybe saying Norman Lott, like if he's just really good right out of the gate and you have a pass rusher next to Jones, but I'll say Smith just because I think the opportunity is going to be there for him.
I'm with you. I'm so excited about this kid. I really, like I said, I'm sitting here in May watching Kareem Hunt highlights. but he was just doing some incredible things for them as a pass catcher. When he got the ball in his hands, he was electric. He was a problem. And I think with the guys that they're already going to have on the field, if you've got Rice and Kelsey and Hollywood Brown and Worthy out there, and then you have that guy in the backfield, and you're trying to match him up on a linebacker or something, good luck. I mean, someone's going to get open out of that group.
I really hope so. As long as they have 3/10 of a second to throw the ball, it should be in good shape.
Yeah. It's important. It's a key important thing for them.
You're gonna want to do that. You're gonna want to keep the guy upright.
Yeah. So the schedule comes out next week for Verderame, May 14th, day after my birthday, in case anybody wants to send a gift. Are you a big schedule release guy?
Love it. Huge. Genuinely. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, we'll on SI.com, we'll be running an all-day tracker of just all the news that's coming out. And while also like bothering people in the league to give me information. Yes. I do love it. I think the schedule's the most underrated part of a team's success during the season. I've always felt that way. If I'm looking at it from like my team's perspective, I want them to play the harder teams first and have a weaker back half of the schedule. Because, those teams that are bad early in the year, they don't know they're bad yet. They're giving everything they've got. They're playing hard. If you catch a bad team in week 3, they're going to give you 1,000%. You catch a bad team in week 15, they're playing younger guys who are hurt. You're really going to push that ankle? Probably not. Like, there's just a lot to that. I do not think that is properly rated when people break down who's going to win X amount of games. Plus, too, like, how many, stretches do you have where you're like on the road for 3 games in a row or 4 out of 5? When is your bye week? How many times do you have short rest compared to teams you're playing against? When do who do you get off your bye? Like, I think all that stuff matters. And for the Chiefs and other cold weather teams, like, I want a lot of home games toward the end of the season. Because that is a huge, like, if the Chiefs, now I know they don't play this year, but if the Chiefs played the Dolphins in week 1 at Arrowhead, that's a lot less of an advantage if they see them in week 17.
Yep.
It matters. Stuff matters. Like, so to me, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I am very big on the schedule.
Yeah, and you get to find out when you're going to be working, when those primetime games are, all that fun stuff if you want to go to a game. Last thing before we get out of here, I was scrolling through my TikTok today. And it's a tradition unlike any other. Colin Cowherd show. I even took a screenshot of it for you. I don't know if you can see there. His AFC West predictions. There it is. It's the Chargers. What is this? Their 12th consecutive preseason AFC West championship.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's really impressive.
It's like a joke. I mean, it is. It's actually like the joke has jumped the shark. Like the fact that it's still happening is absurd.
I spent like an hour talking about this with Tucker Franklin a week ago. I will just say, I defy anybody to tell me where the Chargers are better than the Chiefs outside of safety, probably running back, and then obviously their tackles. But if you include the entire offensive line, it's probably a push because the Chiefs are much better inside. So, like, as in terms of total position groups, where are the Chargers better outside of probably running back and safety?
I mean,
and also, did the Chargers get better this offseason? Did I miss a bunch of moves the Chargers made to get better? Like, I feel like at best they're the same damn team.
What they outside of Hampton? Who do they have? Do they re-sign Dobbins?
How do you feel about Najee Harris?
Oh, they got Najee Harris. That's right. I mean, I don't know, man. He's not a bad running back, but he's not a good running back either. He's I feel like his best trait is that he's just there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he stays on the field, runs into the back of the offensive line, gets you 4 yards. He's the
quintessential, like, he gains like 3.9 yards a carry every year.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see how Hampton is. Obviously, he was highly touted, but, I don't know. I think if Pacheco can return to form, he obviously was not great after he came back from the injury last year. There have some people have some, do you think he takes too much flack for his vision issues, Pacheco? I think it's about right. Yeah, I think I'm with you. He runs hard. I see him missing open holes all the time, and I'm like, where are you going?
He's not like Trent Richardson, but yeah,
right.
It's not great.
By the way, you got a hole in the elbow of that sweatshirt.
Oh, dude, both of them. Are you kidding me? That's
You're
why I'm
hanging on to that thing.
I keep it for like when I go outside and do like yard work, and I was mowing the lawn before this. So
yeah,
it's
on brand for the A's. Like it's like the stadium version of their sweatshirt. Yeah. Right.
They got. I mean, the elbows are shot, but I just keep like. I always have like a sweatshirt like this and a t-shirt like that, just for like when I'm doing crap around the house. And I'm like, well, you know what? If something happens, I don't really care.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it is a good sweatshirt. I mean, it's a nice looking sweatshirt, holes aside. But you're a Brewers guy now, right?
I mean, look, I definitely have gotten to know quite a few people up at the Brewers because they actually, some of the front office like listens to the podcast. So a lot of Chiefs fans at the Brewers. Hitting coach is a Chiefs fan. Radio guy is Chiefs fan. Some front office execs, Chiefs fans. So I do go up there a decent amount. I've become friends with them. And I do go up there. I'm actually literally in the process right now of writing a story about the Brewers organization that for SI, because I just know so many people up there. I said, well, what the hell? I should probably write a story on the way the team operates because I have an inside look to it all the time. Yeah. The key was to remain unbiased. Like I can't, even though they're friends, you gotta write it as you see it. But I think it's a really interesting story about the way they develop talent. And it's just something that I kind of stumbled in through being friends with some of the people in the front office. Like you kind of learn how they do things. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of different. So I've never written a thing that is not about football for SI, but I will be probably coming out like next week, maybe 2 weeks from now for SI on the Brewers. So
that's cool. They let you out of your lane a little bit.
Yeah, I figure what the hell? You know, it's non-peak football season. Now, like I just know so many people with the Brewers. It's like, well, it's kind of stupid not to write something if I feel like there's a story there, and I felt like there was. Yeah. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Like I said, I mean, the only question I really had to ask myself was, can you be non-biased? Because you know people there. So, like, is it a conflict? But in the end, I think when people read it, like, they'll see it. There's no conflict. It's pretty factual. So it's just, but it's interesting. It's an interesting read. At least I hope it is.
All right, man. We're going to get out of here. Guys, thank you so much for checking out the OG Hour. We'll be back tomorrow with Freaky Friday with Adam Best and Sterling Holmes. And, of course, we'll be back next week with our regular slate of shows. Verderame, you got anything special aside from the Brewers piece coming out at SI?
I mean, nothing crazy. Just, typical run-of-the-mill stuff, off-season stuff. I'll be covering the schedule wall-to-wall next Wednesday and also Go Next.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I'm not enjoying the playoffs. You are.
Yeah, I feel for you. That's rough.
Well, that last game was that
was one of the worst losses I've ever seen. Although the Celtics have a strong word currently.
Yeah. So we'll see how this all plays out in the end. But after the Knicks just getting kind of clowned and pantsed by everybody all season long, all the good teams, you got to give them credit, man. Jalen Brunson is that dude. That move he made on that guy from the last series to win that. Yep. That guy went into another. He was in another dimension.
Man went into space.
He was gone. He was out of the arena. Like
all I can say is I really do appreciate the Celtics, who have been up 20 points in each of these two games. Just no use for driving the ball at all. It's like, nah, that's all right. It's quarter three. Just keep firing.
Just keep firing.
Dude, I got to tell you, like game one, watching it, I was kind of like, actually, I'll tell you, I was in Milwaukee. I was working on this story. So I was up at the Brewers game, actually, but I was watching the game on a TV in the stadium. And there was a part of me that was like, just amazed they were coming back. So I wasn't like super locked in like I would have been at my house to like every single nuance of the game. Game two, I was in my house. I was down here in my office. And I'm like, are the Celtics serious with this? Like they're up 15 points with 7 minutes left. And they're just firing away from 30 feet down. Like, this is unbelievable. As a Knicks fan, I was sitting there thinking, my God, let him shoot it. Don't even challenge him. Like, just back off and let him shoot these things. There was one play where Tatum had the ball in the car. They were up 7 or 9. It was like right below 10 points. He got the ball, and Brunson had fallen down. Bro, there's never been a more open player alive. Like Brunson was on the ground. He was the closest guy to him. He was 20 feet away from him. Tatum could have moonwalked and dunked the ball and just set himself for a good 3 seconds and then just fired a brick from like 25 feet away. It was unbelievable. They just would not go anywhere near the basket for 8 straight minutes in the fourth quarter. If it doesn't change, they're going to lose. There's a part of me that still feels like the Celtics is going to figure this out and win the series. But I don't know, man. Game 3 is going to be Armageddon. You're going to have the Garden going berserk. The Celtics have to win. I'm very excited for the game. Yeah,
it's going to be that's who the Celtics are. They're going to fire those threes. They don't care.
Yep, they're
going to live by it or die by it. So that's, I was saying before the playoffs, how do they lose? Because they are really good. They are prone to having off shooting nights like any team. Yeah. And if they're not hot against the wrong team, they will get upset. And so they better hope it doesn't continue, because that Knicks team they're scrapping, man. They're playing good defense, and Brunson's unbelievable.
Playing hard.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That's it for the NBA portion of the podcast. We'll see you guys next week. Check out Verderame's work over at sportsillustrated.com. Make sure you're reading arrowheadaddict.com and Matt Connor's work over there every day. And we'll see you tomorrow on Freaky Friday. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.